So we threw all the variables into a random forest regression, and we compared what happened in the first year of the pandemic to what happened in the second year of the pandemic. Throughout the pandemic, the economic variables are much more important than anything else in explaining the recovery of downtown. So what I like to say is it's the economy, stupid, the old Bill Clinton quote. So you'll see here in the first two panels, a strong negative correlation. That means when an economy is more concentrated in professional services, the panel on the left, it doesn't do as well. Negative correlation. Same thing with information, tech, negative correlation. Where you start to see cities doing better is where they have concentrated in public administration and educational uses. That's the two right panels. What was interesting in our analysis is that we found that the factors changed by the second year. In other words, though early recovery was driven by the composition of the economy and other factors like housing, later and long-term recovery comes from other factors too. The weather actually comes up as really important, and dependence on transit comes up as really important. In other words, when the weather is uncomfortable, people don't want to take that long commute downtown on the train. They stay home. So where does that leave us? I'm going to conclude with some policy recommendations. The first is that we need to activate our public and private spaces downtown. Cities should move quickly, working together with the private sector to bring activity back downtown. Some have already adopted tactical urbanist approaches, such as introducing food carts, pop-up cafes, painting crosswalks, adding bike lanes. But attracting people back is going to take more than these cosmetic types of improvements. We need to focus on making downtowns for people, just like Jane Jacobs wrote in 1957. We've known this for a very long time. So how are we going to do this? We need to work with property owners to fill empty storefronts, to fill empty offices, using steeply discounted rates for uses that generate activity, nonprofits, public sector, small business tenants. We should sponsor art exhibits and festivals and events as well. Second, we need to facilitate access to loans for our small service and retail businesses that have been struggling since the end of government assistance. We must provide low-interest loans to keep these businesses open in the short term as our longer-term revitalization efforts come to fruition. Third, we need to monitor our downtown activity to identify the live spots and the dead spots. Activity is uneven in our downtowns, and it varies from block to block. We need to look at a micro scale to identify which areas need serious intervention. Parts of downtown are thriving again, but there's blocks that are completely dead. We need to know which they are. And finally, on the short term, we need to tolerate the continuation of work from home. And people are not going to like this recommendation. But if you are a region with a tight labor market, with long commute times, cold weather, and a concentration of employers in professional services and IT, then you're not going to be able to incentivize workers to come back. So we need to work with this work from home trend, not try to fight it. Over the long term, we need to diversify our land uses and our economies downtown. The downtowns of the future are for people. They're places to live, places to work, places to play, places to connect. So this might mean helping developers convert office buildings, especially older ones, to other uses like recreation, culture, institutional or residential uses. And then we should also consider how we get our more resilient sectors downtown, like health, education, and government. Secondly, we need to ensure that our future downtowns are inclusive and affordable. Governments have an opportunity now to incentivize redevelopment for affordable housing or a mixture of uses. Third, we need to invest strategically in transit and walkability. So our transit lines and our bus lines, we need to fill them up. They're not going to fill up with workers. We need to fill them up with visitors and residents. And so that means redesigning our streets and restricting parking so that walking, biking, riding transit are appealing options to people.